Now is the time for partnerships and interactions. For example, COVID-19 has created a schism in the traditional understanding of the paradigm between developed and developing countries. When Italy was facing a lot of COVID-19 cases, Chinese government actually sent a team of health experts and many medical supplies to support Italy. But if you think about GDP per capita of Italy, it's one of the 7 member countries of 30-50 Club, countries that have more than $30,000 per GDP per person, and more than 50 million people in their country. And China has less than $10,000 per person. And so China, we traditionally think of as a developing country, and Italy is a developed country, but now we are seeing that the developing countries are helping developed countries. So because of COVID-19, we are understanding now it's no longer about us versus them. It has to be a partnership where we think about how to respond to the same shock that we are facing in this world.
The COVID-19 gave us lessons. Since the Earth is connected with each other, helping someone to prevent infectious diseases is something that also makes me safe. So these challenges could be better resolved if we communicate, share experiences, exchange useful information, and work together with developing countries and international organizations. So I'd like to repeat that cooperation and solidarity of all countries is the best strategy to overcome this pandemic outbreak.
And according to the executive director of the UN World Food Program, they're expecting that more than 50 million people will now newly be people in extreme poverty, meaning that even though we have made so much progress in making sure that people are not in extreme poverty state anymore, COVID-19 has exposed more people to be in that state. And so that would be what we are experiencing nowadays. And so this is why people are worried about schools closing, for example, because many students in developing countries are fed when they go to school. And so they're given out meals at school. But because more than 70% of children are out of school right now, these children are also expected to be malnourished because of COVID-19. In developed countries, they were able to offer education through online education. But we've been told that about 25% of developing countries were able to offer education remotely, but this was mostly due to television and radios and not through the internet. So that kind of situation analysis has highlighted the importance of digital access. And so now I think the international development cooperation field will work hard to make sure that we bridge that digital gap.
Developing countries are much more vulnerable due to its insufficient medical and healthcare infrastructure and system. In particular, as the country executes so-called the lockdown policy, and as responding to the coronavirus is absorbing all the resources of a country like a black hole, it causes huge socioeconomic negative impact, indirect or even direct damage in poor countries, including maternal and child health conditions and food security. It lowers and worsens national health levels. The crisis that started from the health issue is spreading into the crisis of national survival. For this reason, supporting to capacity building of the healthcare system in developing countries is not enough, but strengthening support and cooperation in terms of securing livelihood is definitely needed.
So each country has their own development plan, and there are certain priority areas that they wanted to work on. But because of COVID-19, I'm sure that most countries will now work on SDG number 3, universal health coverage, because we've seen the importance of access to healthcare. But another SDG that wasn't as popular before COVID-19 was SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation. And I think because of COVID-19, now countries will also recognize the importance of hygiene and making sure that people are informed about how to better take care of themselves. And we've been told in many developing countries about 3 billion people lack access to clean water and soap. So these people lack access to the most basic strategy for preventing COVID-19. And we've been hearing from people on the ground that sometimes NGOs and local social enterprises have changed their goods and services so that they can meet this demand for people to have access to clean water and sanitation. So I hope this time will provide an opportunity for both developed and developing countries to think about what is the priority area that they need to focus in terms of SDG 6. And if there were basic services that were not being provided, maybe that's the area that countries now need to think about. I think KOICA can be the focal point of making sure that some of the lessons learned can be transferred to other developing countries. And I've been told KOICA is already doing that. So if there are certain points of action, whether it be educating the current health personnel about how to actively respond to COVID-19, or making sure that you are able to gather efforts of the private sector to make sure that medical supplies are being sent to the most in need, we can surely try to transfer the current monitoring systems that we have available and also cater it so that it meets the technical requirements of the countries that are interested. So I hope that going forward, we can make sure the lessons learned from COVID-19 are shared, but not only that, lessons that we've gathered about how to make sure that we are able to provide universal education to children or provide universal health care. I hope that those kind of long-term planning strategies can also be shared.
KOICA, as one of the representative ODA agency in South Korea, works along with the directions and efforts of the international community. KOICA will provide international support to overcome the challenges caused by the coronavirus through cooperation and solidarity in accordance with the Korean government's guidance. Let's make effort together with the best we can do. KOICA is also going to do our best in order to fight the COVID-19 pandemic crisis through international development cooperation. Thank you very much.